Good afternoon, NEC. So, this is the grade and attendance tracker that I'm going to be using for my classes for the school year. Um, Basically, I wanted to give my students a way of predicting and modeling the impact of like the grades they receive on each assignment and their attendance, and give them a way to predict what their final scores might be based off of different scenarios that can happen. It's not a perfect tool. It is just a model. So there's something to stress to your students before you give them this tool, but it should help give them a reasonable expectation for how things can end up for them based off of the choices that they make. So when you get this tool, there's nothing you have to install. This is just a Google Sheet. There's no add-ons, scripts, permission pop-ups, no extensions. So it should have no trouble working on any district managed device, the same way as it would act anywhere else. The first thing to note is there's a start here page with a set of instructions for teachers. And that's what I'm going to go over in this video walkthrough, just so that you have a rough idea of like what setting this up looks like and how this tool works. Then there's a set of student instructions that'll tell them how to use this as well, or give them reminders of like how they can use this to predict their grades. Yeah. My suggestion would be is after you set this up, go ahead and delete the teacher instructions so that way the students don't see like some of the behind the scenes stuff or accidentally break something. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and make a copy of this to save in your own personal Google Drive. That way you have a copy that if you accidentally break something or the sheet stops working for you for some reason, it's easy enough for you to go back to the original and just start over from fresh. Okay. But teachers, when you get this for the first time, you're going to want to come over to the dashboard page. And the first thing you're going to want to do is maybe change the title of the course for your class and change whatever categories you have and whatever weightings those categories are in your particular class. Um, so obviously, if you're a high school level teacher, you just have the product and process 80/20 split. CE teachers, we have our more granular categories and weightings. So you'll just want to set all that up. And then the other thing you'll want to do is come over to attendance and put in whatever deadlines or dates apply to you. For me, I'm a year-long CE teacher, so my classes run all year. I have a drop deadline that's February 8th and a withdrawal deadline for my students that's May 8th. And then put in whatever your attendance rate floors are. So for CE teachers, we have 60% and 70% respectively. And then we also, for withdrawals, have the grade floor that basically anything below a C and that attendance rate is less than 70%, that's when our students are at risk of being withdrawn. Okay. So those are pretty much the main things that you have to set up. Once you do, your sheet's almost ready to go. The only other things that you'll want to consider are things like maybe making some changes to the letter grade scale if you have something different than kind of the standard 90% for an A, 80 for a B. Just update those to reflect what's true for your class. The other thing that I would strongly encourage you to do is after you get the setup done, go ahead and select any cells that you do not want students to be able to type in. So, for example, I probably don't want students messing with my categories. I don't want them messing with any of this stuff because that's like what a lot of formulas are based off of, and that's where all the calculations happen. So, if a student accidentally types in these cells, they could break the whole simulation and it won't work anymore. So if you want to protect those and keep students from accidentally typing in there, you can just right click after you've highlighted those cells, come down to where it says view more cell actions and click protect range. And then I'll show you the dashboard sheet that we're on and which cells are highlighted. And you just click set permissions. And now you can restrict who can edit this range. So if we're doing this in our DPS accounts, we could give access to anybody who's like in our DPS circle, or you could just set it for only you and then just click done. So now I am the only person that can edit in this sheet. And then if I want to delete that, since I'm about to distribute this to all teachers and want you to have that functionality, I'll go ahead and delete those permissions so you don't have to worry about it. And now you can set those permissions yourself. Okay, so now when we give this to students, we can, since this is just a Google Sheet, we can just link this right in Schoology, tell them to download it and make it a copy on their own devices. The way they're going to interact with this sheet is come over to My Grades. And basically, My Grades is exactly that. They just enter in all of the different assignments that they take part in over the course of the school year, and they're going to select a category. Now, the cool thing about these categories is these drop downs will update automatically. So if I come over to the dashboard, and let's say I don't call it homework, let's say I call it classwork. Yeah. Oh, another cool thing I forgot about. This setup check is just a sanity check for teachers. So it'll tell you if all of your category scores add up to 100%, and that's good. And it'll check if you have unmatched rows. So it says fix this. So what that means basically, I just changed the name classwork, and that's message is saying that in this category tab, the dropdown doesn't have something called homework. It has something called classwork, but the drop-down menu has changed, so you would just change it to the correct name. Yeah. All right, so once students start entering in some grades, they're just going to enter in like the due dates, name of the assignment, what category it is, and then they can enter in either grades that they've gotten back, so they can enter in the points possible, the points they earned, and I'll tell them, okay, you got a 90% on that assignment. It'll tell them also too, if you have all of your assignments planned out, maybe in Schoology, they could go ahead and copy in all of those assignments from Schoology. And these assignments that are like in Schoology maybe, but they haven't been given out yet. But the student can see maybe they're worth 500 points. Yeah. So now what'll happen is basically as we go on and students start getting grades back, there is a notes section here for the student to reflect on their performance. So maybe on this classwork assignment, problem set 1, I did well, but I still misunderstand the difference between intensive and extensive. So maybe that was where they lost the 2 points, right? Or let's say they took the Unit 1 test. It was worth 100 points. They scored 60 points on it, so they got a 60%. It's been graded, and it says, okay, maybe I didn't study enough, or they can just reflect on what was going on around the time that they were getting ready for the test. What do they think is contributing to the score they got? Okay, so as we get some scores in there, right, now the spreadsheet is telling the student what their current grade is based off of the graded work and the weights applied. So the student right now is a 73.8%. They have a C. And right now projected final is blank. So if they want to project and see what will they finish with in the class, they come over to the dashboard. Yeah. And this tells them that 5 items have been graded. There's still 7 more out there, or 7 items in total. So there's still some ungraded work out there. But now what they can do is simulate the rest of the course by clicking this drop down. And they've got a couple of options. So they can keep my current average. Obviously, if they keep my current average, let me delete this. So if I just keep doing what I've been doing and getting the same scores in the different assignment categories, obviously nothing's going to change, and I'm going to end with a 73.8%. What would happen if I got perfect scores, if I scored 100% on every single assignment? Now my projected grade is going up a little bit. But that's also going to be dependent on how many more assignments are available, how many more points are up for grabs, versus how many assignments have been completed so far. So as the school year goes on, the impact of just completing a perfect 100 is going to be less and less on their projected grade, because we're getting close to the model and reality matching up. Yep. And then let's say the student says, okay, well, what happens if I just do enough to get an A? I just do A-level work. Obviously, it'll go down a little bit, so on and so forth. Or they can enter in their own columns in column I. So in this column, they can enter in and say, okay, classwork's pretty easy. I have the teacher there to help me if I have questions. I don't get stuck very often. I can probably get 95% on those on average. Sure. Maybe quizzes are a little harder and I get usually do like an 83% just because like the time and stress. Maybe assessments. I haven't done so well, but I think I've been getting like D's. Maybe I can get C's. And now I can be a little more granular and see now the model is getting a little more realistic based off of like how much each of those categories is worth. And then the other thing they can do here is see what is my target final grade. So what in this section, what do I need on the rest of the course? So if they are, halfway through the school year and still hoping for an A, they can type in 90%. Is an A possible for me? Okay. So this says they still have this many points that are left ungraded that are up for grabs. And it says they need to average 144% on every single assignment if they want to get their grade from a C up to an A. Obviously, that's not possible unless your policy is to give a lot of extra credit. Okay, so maybe an A is out of reach for this student. Okay, what about a B? Okay, I still would need to get over 108%. But again, I wouldn't need as much extra credit. So maybe, I don't know. Again, this is going to be every teacher's own policy. Okay. What do I need to do just to make sure I stick with a C, a solid C? Okay. I do need to get all A's, but it's doable. And the spreadsheet tells them that. And again, there's a self-reflection log down here where they can do to see like, okay, if I ran my predicted scenario as being getting all A's, what would I need to do in my study habits to make sure I'm only turning in A-level work? And then last, we have an attendance tracker. So this is going to be set up. Mine is set up for my CE class. I have a year-long CE class, so I have those deadlines and drop dates in there. I also have this column here that says tardies equal 1 absence equals 3. And the reason why I have that is because I wanted the attendance tracker to be overly cautious. And I also wanted students to kind of see the impact of, tardies versus the impact of attendances. So basically the way that this worksheet is working is it's basically just assuming that 3 tardies equals 1 absence. So I'm going to be super careful in the way that I communicate this to students because obviously that is not school policy, that is not district policy. It's just a modeling artifact so that students get some idea of like how tardies are impacting their attendance rates. And then all that they really need to do, again, is just keep track of their attendance. So log every date that they're marked either absent or tardy and reflect on why that is, where they pulled out for a doctor's visit, where they just not feeling it that day and decided not to come to school for some reason. Again, self-reflection is the big goal here. And then what we can do is just simulate, okay, as we get closer and closer to, these deadlines, what's the situation shaping up to be? So if I type in the date that I'm using this sheet, it'll automatically calculate how many school days have expired already. So as of February 5th, that'll be 95 school days. Roughly speaking, I had to kind of estimate. I'm just estimating based off of like the total number of contract days minus days that students aren't in school, such as holidays or PD days. It might be different for like testing, all that kind of stuff. But again, it overestimates the impact on attendance is the idea here. Okay. So basically, as we're going on through the year, or let's rewind time and come back to like September 15th. Okay. So their attendance rate, it's not bad. They've got 1 tardy, no absences yet. They've got an attendance rate of 97.9%. Attendance is in good shape. If they, keep logging more and more absences though, and we go to like October 5th, now 29 days have expired in the school year and their attendance is at 67.8%. So this warning is telling them that they're getting close to the attendance limits. They really need to pay attention. In fact, in my class, they're already below the withdrawal date. So it's giving them that warning that you're below that 70% threshold.